Hello everyone and welcome back once again to QuipScope. It's the show where we take a look at brand new video games and give you our thoughts and then a little quip at the end. My name is Peter.
And I'm Ben.
Hello Ben.
Hello.
You alright there?
Yeah, I'm in charge of theme parks now.
Oh, how are you?
Yeah.
Why so? Have you been playing Planet Coaster Console Edition by any chance?
No.
Oh,
I just snuck in because no one's allowed to go to theme parks anymore. Yeah. No, I have actually. I've been playing that game.
Oh, very good. Well, is it? Is the question. That's what the whole video's about.
Yes.
How are you finding it? Yeah? Good.
Yeah, a resounding yes to that initial question. I'm finding it well. That's the correct response, isn't it? That's the language you want to use. So Planet Coaster, which I'm sure you can probably surmise from the thumbnail and the footage you're seeing, and also the name, is sort of a roller coaster tycoon sort of spiritual successor where you manage a theme park and you look after the financials, you construct rides, you decorate it, you make sure your guests are happy, you make sure your staff are happy. And I don't normally go for these kinds of sim games because I love them in principle. Like I think they're a really cool concept, similar to 2 Point Hospital.
Yeah.
I think they seem to be really good games, and having played them, I know that it's a good game. But it's not something that I would come back to again and again, because it doesn't really hold my attention all that much, and especially when it comes to games like Tropico and City Skylines and stuff like that, it's just a bit the barrier for entry is a bit too high for me. In that I don't want to spend the time to learn it.
There's a lot of precedent that they've built up from previous games in the same genre. Like there's sort of, in a way, there's like decades to learn. I mean, It's not really that complicated, I'm sure, but there's a lot of tropes and trends and things.
Well, that's the thing about Planet Coaster Console Edition. I don't know if it was in the original. The original actually released in 2016 on PC, and has sort of evolved as time has gone by. But we've finally got a console edition released for PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X/S. And I've been playing the PS5 version. Only played about an hour of it, and based on what I just said, I was absolutely thrilled to be thrown into a tutorial that I think is one of the best tutorials I've ever played.
Wow.
It's so good. They've got amazing voice actors playing these various characters, talking you through what to do. So there's the sort of whimsical and high on life and passionate about theme parks owner of the theme park that you're sort of testing in. There's the financial lady who's quite strict and keeps urging you to like pump up the prices. There's sort of the nerdy man who's researching stuff and has built these designs of various things that you can put in the park, sort of groups of objects rather than placing individual objects, schematics and so on. And then there's a park goer who has 900 followers online.
Wow.
She's a big fan of parks, and she talks to you all about, listening to what people want and so on. But they all banter back and forth, and it was really easy to follow, and I was really impressed by sort of how well they handled teaching someone like me, who would otherwise probably be put off by playing a game like this, the fundamentals and basics of actually running a park.
Well, that's good, even just from a controls point of view, because of course this is, as you say, come from PC and is now on console. And you don't have a mouse and keyboard to play with anymore. You've got to do everything via a controller. So even if you are familiar with this game, you're still probably going to want to just learn how everything's been remapped and whether any of the actual control systems have had to have been changed a little bit because of the constraints of console. So yeah, that's good that they've done that. For all aspects for all members of the audience, I suppose all players are going to benefit from that. That's good. So, are you saying you're now sort of a convert, and you think you will actually go back to this a bit more, or are you've had your fun, but it's still not really your big thing?
So I think I'm going to continue playing it. Wow. The problem for me perhaps is creative vision. Because there's all manner of there's an aspect of, when you're making your park. Fortunately, in this test one, the skeleton is already there. There's sort of a fairy tale section, and there's a pirate section, and people can get bored or not that interested in even going on the rides if there's not a lot of scenery and set dressing around it. So you want to be able to, address that and sort it out, and you can sink objects into the ground or raise them up a bit and, adjust terrain and stuff. I didn't do any of the terrain adjustment on mine. But yeah, you have to sort of plan ahead about how you want it to look. Ultimately, what I did in the tutorial, because there's a huge list of things you can put in your park, various items and scenery and stuff. I ended up just lining a load of cannons that fired alongside a footpath.
Right.
So people walked past and there were about 7 cannons all going off at once. But generally, especially in the trailer for this, which I saw when we were putting together our list of all the launch games ranked, the things you could do were really impressive. There was someone adjusting a collapsed train, so it looked like it was bursting out of a building and then crashing into sort of a cordoned off area. There's all sorts of really amazing stuff that you can do if you have the sort of the know-how and the foresight to plan ahead and do that kind of stuff. So I think that would be the only thing that's holding me back, really. It's got a campaign mode, much like 2 Point Hospital, which I'm going to compare it to a lot, just because they're similar games.
Yeah.
Where you just have to fulfill certain criteria and make a certain amount of money, that kind of stuff, and then move on through it. But if you wanted to do, I think there's a challenge mode and stuff where you have limited money and you have to do as well as possible. But if you were to just sort of go into a park and try and make your perfect vision, I think at that point I would probably still be a little bit overwhelmed with what to do.
And all the possibilities, I guess. I think it's a really fun game. Certainly, I would say this about the PC version. I'm sure it's no different on console. It's a really fun game to watch on YouTube, like people who can do it well. I spent a number of, it feels like years now. Like, as you say, it's been out for a while on PC. I think when I was a student, like for a couple of years, I used to like check in and look at some of the stuff that people have made in either that game or games like it, Planet Zoo and things like 2 Point Hospital. The level of creativity that you can do in the Planet games is kind of bonkers, really. And you can make underground tunnels and set up lighting and do different effects. Like you can have like smoke coming out of stuff or dripping water and it really is one of those games where the sky is pretty much the limit, and I'm sure something that's still available on console is community items where people can make stuff out of individual components, put it all together and turn it into, a cowboy saloon or a haunted house or something, and they've made it out of, little bits of wall, and then you can import their entire haunted house into your park, which is crazy and brilliant.
Yeah, I believe that's still possible, and obviously you can customize and create roller coasters too. I just had the choice of a prefabricated one, which I couldn't really customize. I mean, every single ride you can customize the colors of, and you can change the prices, and you can close them and do maintenance and go ride them in first person and do test dummies and stuff. But I imagine people have made some pretty mad roller coasters that probably nearly kill the riders.
Or do kill the riders.
Yeah, but no such luck in my short time with it. But I am just sort of really impressed by not only the visual style, I quite like sort of the sim design of the, when I say the sim, I mean the Sims, as in the game, the Sims.
Yeah.
Design of the inhabitants and the various characters and stuff, and the park goers. And I just... It's just really lovely. Like, it's just a really uplifting game, because there was quite a sort of, especially with some of the older park building games that used to be around, they could be a bit macabre and a bit sort of, their sense of humor could be quite dark, especially in terms of accidentally killing off park goers, which is all good and well, There's certainly a market for that, but I must say it's quite refreshing to build a park and have it be all upbeat and nice,
Yeah. Do you think, to sort of go back to talking about this thing being translated onto, or ported, I should say, is the technical term, onto console, do you think it's easy to use from a control point of view? So you've talked about, obviously, the tutorial itself was good, and it tells you how to make a park run well and be successful. But in terms of hands-on using a controller to do a creator game like this, does it actually work well from that point of view?
Well, this was my one drawback with it, is that
Right.
I don't think it translates badly, and I don't really know how else they could have done it, but what I will say is that it certainly takes some getting used to.
Yeah.
There's a lot of button combinations, a lot of shortcuts. The camera can be quite fickle. I broke it almost immediately, actually, and it went sideways. And when I rotated it and went up and down, it just sort of spun on its axis, and I was like, this doesn't feel right. But then it managed to right itself, and especially when I was building paths and sort of slowly rotating objects, because you can tap R1 and L1 to snap it 90 degrees in rotation, or you can hold it to sort of slowly rotate it. But if you want to do fine-tune adjustments, and you only want to adjust it a tiny bit, you've got to hold L1 or R1 probably for longer than you want to, because if you just sort of tap it, then it will flip a whole 90 degrees. So it can be quite finicky. The paths were a little difficult. I really struggled to get the entrance to the roller coaster sorted, because I made I sort of elevated it a bit so it was off the ground, and the queue area was on stilts. And I managed to get the exit working okay, but for some reason the path just would not link up with the entrance, and I had to replace the entrance of the ride by going into the settings of the ride itself.
Right.
Sometimes it's not always clear why bins or benches refuse to place on paths, even though it looks like they're perfectly level. So it can be a little obtuse at times, but I imagine that with playing it, it'll become second nature to you. And as I said, I really don't know how else they could have translated it to a controller from PC.
Yeah, there's only so much they can do, really. I mean, I remember once upon a time, you used to get strategy games and creation games like that on console fairly regularly, and it kind of went out the window for a while. Like, you didn't really, you still had things like XCOM, which are a different kind of strategy game, but like they're not like Command and Conquer, where you had to actually click and drag to select like loads of units using a PlayStation 1 controller. Like that wasn't super intuitive. So there's been a bit of a lull for the most part, from what I can think of. But it maybe this will be a bit of a revival for the creator / RTS on console if it goes down well enough. But on the other hand, maybe not. If that's the one thing that's holding it back, I would say it's probably the one thing that made them go away in the first place from console, is that they just you don't have enough buttons and axes available to your hands, really. There's only
so much you can do with two analog sticks, but it works fine, and I think it's a really solid game, especially as a launch title as well. I know it's an older game, but there aren't really that many other games like it, especially on the next generation of consoles. So I heartily recommend it to anyone who's interested in perhaps giving it a go.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, it's good to hear that it's overall it's a pretty good effort. But hey, Planet Coaster Console Edition, more like Planet Ghoster Console Edition, because you're going to kill all of your inhabitants, and then it'll just be their departed souls riding your roller coaster.
My goodness me. Yeah. Planet Coaster Console Edition, more like Planet Coaster Nuclear Fission, because it's complicated, but it's good, really. When you think about it, it's pretty good stuff.
Yeah, I like it. Planet Coaster Console Edition, more like Planet Coaster Console Edition, because it's been added to console now. It used to only be
addition.
on PC. Addition, yeah. They've now added console capabilities to it.
Planet Coaster, more like Planet Go Star.
Yeah, you can do it. Well done, you.
Go,
game.
Star.
Go, Star. I believe in you. Well, that's, four quips. We don't normally manage that.
That's an awful lot of quips.
Well done, us. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching, and we'll be back with you with more QuipScopes as and when new games come out, I suppose.
Absolutely. See you next time, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.